So Monarch booster boxes have just hit what I believe to be an all-time low of nearly $100 a box. Now, if you go over to TCG Player, you're going to see some at around like 110 to 115, and it's kind of going up from there, and there aren't a whole lot listed. However, if you head over to eBay, you can see that there are several recent sales that are just a few dollars over that $100 mark, and that includes shipping. So what is going on, and how much worse can it get from here? So it pains me to see this drop because I am a big fan of Flesh and Blood. I love collecting the cold foils. I think the sets are absolutely beautiful, and I think it's a successful game overall. It seems a lot of people play it, and I think there are still a lot of collectors out there, even if Rudy is kind of pitching that a lot of the investors have left, which is probably definitely true, but a lot of us are kind of straddling that line between collecting and investing anyways, and for me, you know, I love going after those cold foils. I am a little bit surprised to be seeing these recent big drops, however. I mean, we knew about that 125,000 print run. We know that caused some drama, but I feel like that was already priced in for a while. I mean, we actually saw a small uptick when that number was announced because people had such bad expectations. But since that uptick, the Monarch booster box price has just been steadily going down until it's hit this around $100 booster box mark. So what is happening? Why are Flesh and Blood Monarch booster boxes hitting this all-time low when Flesh and Blood as a game is still taking off? Uprising has just come out. It's very successful. It's a beautiful set. They had their successful Pro Tour pretty recently. They're still getting a lot of pretty good press, in my opinion. And I like the new method with the Uprising boxes where you don't have first edition and unlimited, but players and collectors / investors can kind of share in just one box, and it has a little bit for everybody. I feel like, honestly, Uprising for being a new set is probably priced pretty correctly. I mean, you have to realize that there's also a really big economic downturn going on at the moment. But I feel like even though Uprising is just out and there's a lot of attention on it, we should still be seeing some higher prices for these Monarch booster boxes. I mean, what exactly is going on? So I think there are two things that are going on at the moment that we really need to pay attention to help explain what's happening with these booster boxes. Now, keep in mind, this is just my pure speculation. Markets are really hard to analyze, and this is just kind of from what I've been looking at with other card games and in the global economy overall. So number one, I do think that that global economy is having a big impact on Flesh and Blood, on collectibles as a whole, but I think Monarch is getting the pinch a little bit harder for an additional reason that I'm going to get to in just a minute. Remember, we've got inflation going on right now. We have the ongoing pandemic. We have the war going on in Ukraine. There is political uncertainty. There's just a lot of bad news in the market right now. Stocks are down, crypto's down, and of course that is hitting the collectibles market. I've been doing several videos on MetaZoo where I feel like this exact thing is happening, and despite MetaZoo's price drops, I actually think it is doing quite well given the circumstances that it is facing with the larger economy. Okay, but what about other Flesh and Blood sets? Why is Monarch taking a bigger dip than a lot of other Flesh and Blood products? And here's where I think that there is a second factor that is hurting Monarch particularly badly, even though everyone is getting hit by this larger economic condition right now. And that is the fact that it is awkwardly placed kind of in the middle of the product lineup right now. Look, in TCGs and collectibles as a whole, you've got old products, you've got new products, right? People like the old stuff. It appreciates because it is vintage and getting rarer and harder to find. But people like the new stuff too. You know, it is not as rare. The supply is much higher. There's even a lot more uncertainty compared to old stuff around newer products. However, usually newer products have a lot of hype and marketing. You know, when you look at the most recent box breaks and things like that, it's always going to be around whatever the most recent set is. Now, the thing about Monarch is it's kind of awkwardly in the middle of this range of Flesh and Blood products. Flesh and Blood is a relatively new game. We have kind of an understanding of older cards being, you know, Welcome to Wraith, Arcane Rising, Crucible of War, you know, that first block of 3. And now we have this next block of Monarch, Tales of Aria, and Everfest, which are fairly new, even though we are in the third block now, starting with Uprising. So it's not quite old enough to be getting some premiums that the earlier blocks have had. The larger supply runs certainly didn't help that. People feel like it's still going to be around for quite some time. But it's also not really new anymore. No one's talking about Monarch because instead they might be talking about Tales of Aria or Everfest, or especially now Uprising, right? So it's kind of being left behind. Now, the thing is, it's not a bad product. You know, the set theme is strong with that light versus dark. The cold foils are beautiful. I mean, at the end of the day, if you want a Phantasmal Footsteps, a beautiful cold foil card, you've got to go with Monarch, right? It's just awkwardly placed, and given the larger economic downturn affecting collectibles as a whole, it's going to feel the pinch a little bit harder. I mean, look, if I had $100 only to spend on something from Flesh and Blood, and I had to choose between a Monarch booster box and an Uprising booster box and still have some money left over, I'd probably go with the Uprising booster box. I don't know if you saw Rudy's latest box break of Uprising as of the making of this video. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he only broke one booster box. Maybe it was two, but I think he only broke one, and he got like 3 or 4 cold foils, including a cold foil Marvel Dragon, plus an extended art. I mean, that is pretty good. And I understand probably not every booster box is like that. But with Monarch, you're pretty much guaranteed to get just one cold foil, and on a rare occasion, 2, and then it might be a cold foil common. So it feels like you're getting a lot more in Uprising right now, even though the technical booster box supply is, I would anticipate, probably going to be larger than 125,000, but that's just my guess. It's a colorful, vibrant set, much like Tales of Aria. I think Rudy was onto something when he observed. He gave his opinion that he liked it because it was very bright and colorful like Tales of Aria, and he likes that kind of thing in Flesh and Blood. Although I kind of like the more austere colors and themes of some of the other Flesh and Blood sets too, kind of like, Diablo 1 versus Diablo 3, that kind of thing. But it is a nice set. It has those really epic dragons, a whole bunch of them that you can get in cold foil. I mean, it's just got a lot going for it, and it probably over the long term, it's not that much newer than Monarch. Maybe it will be a more favored set. We just don't know right now. So in conclusion, I think Monarch is a great product. I still think it is worth going after some of those cold foils. And you know what? It looks like right now you can get a lot of value if you can get a Monarch booster box at $100, because a lot of the cold foils, just from a cursory glance, they seem to be holding their value pretty well. And it does have a lot of really cool cold foil cards in there to go after. So it might be worth it just to get these booster boxes cheap and open them up and get those cold foils or chase after those cold foils. I don't know if there's really going to be any true investability with Monarch, at least in the short and even, I think, mid-term. However, as a collector like me, who just loves to fill out a binder with cold foils and go after as many cold foils as I can possibly get, especially when a lot of them are this cheap, there's never been a better time to just kind of open some boxes and chase them yourself if you're looking for Monarch cold foils, Uprising. Heck, a lot of these sets are really priced well if you are just looking to open boxes to get some cold foils rather than trying to buy the cold foils outright. All right, I want to hear what you all think about Flesh and Blood Monarch prices right now. Do you think there's room to keep going down? Or do you think that this is probably going to be the bottom for those boxes for quite some time? What do you think about cold foil pricing in general going forward in Flesh and Blood across the board? Tell me in the comments below. Like and subscribe, join our fellowship of collectors. And if you want to hear my analysis on the MetaZoo market in 2022 and going into 2023, you definitely want to go check out this video right over here. And if you just want more Flesh and Blood content, I've got my most recent eBay market analysis on the Flesh and Blood market that you can watch right over here. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Thank you.